are. Hi, welcome everybody. It's great to connect with you all today for the Explore More webinar series with 10 adventures. Today is a really special webinar and unique in the way that we actually have one of our incredible guests that we've had the honor of planning a trip for, a really special and spectacular trek that we're kind of going to be delving into today. So changing it up a little bit, and I think the audience will really enjoy hearing from someone A, who's hiked it, and someone B, who has booked it with 10 adventures. So as you know, for those of you who have joined the webinar, we're going to be talking about hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc on a self-guided basis. And so I'd like to introduce our guest today, Kellie. Hi, Kellie.
Hi, Nadine. Thanks for having me.
It is so great to have you, and we're looking forward to hearing about your experience on the Tour du Mont Blanc. Before we dive in to asking Kellie some questions about her trip, I thought we would start with just a little kind of general overview of the Tour du Mont Blanc. I imagine people that are joining in the audience for this webinar have maybe had friends that have hiked it or have considered hiking it and are looking for more information. So today we're going to kind of give you a general overview of hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc on a self-guided basis, and then also have the opportunity to hear firsthand from someone who has hiked it recently as well. All right, so as noted, this is the Adventure More webinar series. And today we're talking about hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc on a self-guided basis. So in terms of the webinar agenda, if this is your first time joining us for a webinar, typically we like to start with a little welcome, introducing our guest, who today is Kellie. And then we like to do a little bit of a trip overview when we're speaking about a specific hike or a specific tour, today being the Tour du Mont Blanc. So we'll do a bit of an overview, and then we'll dive into some questions that we'll walk through with Kellie to get her feedback on her experience hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc. We'll ask some pre-submitted questions, and then we'll have the chance to ask questions that you can submit actually live from the audience as well. So if you have any questions that come up throughout, feel free to type them into that Q&A box in the webinar, and then at the end we'll be able to answer those for you with the help of Kellie and myself. So what is the Tour du Mont Blanc? Well, I imagine if you are joining today, you've probably heard of the Tour du Mont Blanc. It's an iconic trekking route in Europe. I'd say probably one of the most famous legendary treks in Europe. If you have done hiking trips in the past in Europe, or you're just interested in hiking and travel in general, you've probably heard of the Tour du Mont Blanc. So it's a trekking route essentially, and through the Alps, which combines landscapes of three really beautiful countries, Italy, France, and Switzerland. And it connects a bunch of really charming mountain towns that you can trek along and in between throughout. And the great thing is there are a lot of different route options when hiking the Tour du Mont Blanc as well. So what makes the TMB so special? Well, I think Kellie will definitely be able to help us answer this with her firsthand experience, but something that I've heard from people that have hiked the TMB is that there are no bad days on this route. So every single day that you're hiking the TMB, there's something incredible to see along the way. And I think with that, you also get to experience some really charming mountain towns along the way as well. So there are a ton of different routes when it comes to hiking the TMB. I'd say the two most popular for our guests are the self-guided, the complete 11-day route, and then also the highlights route. The route we're going to be talking about today with Kellie is the complete Tour du Mont Blanc trek. So Kellie, maybe you can introduce the trek that you did.
Yeah, sure. So I did the 11-day self-guided tour. So we started in Chamonix in France, and we left there and headed south.
Yeah. Number two, this way. I know it's hard to think back. Where did we go again?
Yes, it is. Yes, we did head south. It was a great trek. I think we spent 3 days in France, and then we crossed over into Italy. I believe we were in Italy for. We did have a rest day. We were in Italy for 3 days, and then crossed over into Switzerland, and then back into France at the end. So we were on the trail for the full time.
Yeah, so that's the full 11-day route. And where did you have your rest day, Kellie?
We had our rest day in
Yes.
Cormier,
Yeah,
Italy. Yes,
that's a
which
really popular spot for a rest day.
it, it's a ski town,
Hmm.
and it was brilliant. We loved it. I would actually spend an extra day there. We loved it so much. It was a
Yeah.
great rest spot.
I've heard it's really beautiful, and it's also kind of strategic in that it's kind of halfway through the trek as well, so you kind of are able to reset before continuing with the second half of the trail.
Hmm.
Awesome. So I guess a good place to start. We've kind of taken an overview of the itinerary that you did. Now, as I said earlier, this is definitely one of the most popular treks that we offer on a self-guided basis on the TMB. But sometimes people don't have 11 or 12 days to complete the full route. So sometimes we see people doing a 6-day highlights route or a 7-day highlights route, which is an option as well. But I'd say if you have the time, as Kellie did, definitely worth completing the entire route. So, by the way, we're going to be showing some of Kellie's photos throughout
Oh,
the presentation that she was kind enough to share with us as well. So, I guess a good question would be why the TMB, Kellie? Was it something that the two of you had thought about, or had a goal to hike, or you'd heard about? How did you come across the hike, and what made you want to complete it?
so the year before, we did the Lagavegr Trail in Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were on the trail, we had met a couple who had done the TMB the year before.
Oh,
And I have heard of the TMB, but didn't really know much about it. And then in conversation with them, they talked us into it.
that's
And so
awesome.
we came home, we did a little bit of research, looked at it, and we were sold pretty quickly.
That's amazing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I might add that we had the opportunity to book the trek in Iceland for you as well. So the TMB
Yes.
was actually the second hike that we were able to work on together, which was awesome.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense. So you kind of followed up with one iconic hike, heard about another one, and you were like, okay, this one's next on our list. We're going to do it.
Yeah. Yes, and actually while we were on TMB, we've heard about other iconic hikes, which, are now
Wow.
on our bucket list.
That
So
is the
that's
way
kind of
it
how it
goes.
happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just spirals and you just start
It
going on a new iconic hike every year.
it does, and the bucket list just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Always. As long as you're checking them off, then it's all right to add. That's what I always say.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you have trekking experience? Like, did you have experience doing a multi-day trek like this? Obviously, yes, because you had done the Lagavagro Trail, but that's a shorter trek, right?
It was, yes, it was only 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Previous to that, I did the Camino Frances.
Oh, okay,
So I did
cool.
do the full 1,000 kilometers across Spain.
Wow. Oh my
So
goodness.
so that was the first long distance trek. Now they were all very different.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't carry as much stuff as the Lagavegr, um, but yeah, the Camino kind of sparked this interest
Yeah.
in seeing the world in a different way, not just from a beach on an all-inclusive resort.
Yeah.
So it definitely sparked my interest, and which led us here.
That's really inspiring. And
Hence, my
so,
bucket list is so big.
yeah, and forever growing, it sounds like. So,
Yeah.
in terms of, you mentioned like beach holidays before, was that kind of your style in the past before you kind of got into this like trekking holiday, hiking
It
holiday type thing?
it was, yes, it
Oh,
was.
wow.
My idea of time away was like a resort down south,
Yeah.
and then I did the Camino. It just opened my eyes to this whole new world
Hmm.
that's out there, and such great experiences, and now that's just what I want to do. That's my idea of a holiday now.
Yeah.
Is going and seeing like the mountain like that you're seeing on the picture in front of you. It's incredible.
It's beautiful.
Definitely
Yeah.
different spirits. Definitely like satisfying.
And it's redefined your idea of a holiday. I love that. That's
Absolutely.
that's great, and I think it also speaks to the fact that you don't always have to have been doing this like, since you were super young or, only ever traveled this way to enjoy it. It's never too late to kind of make a break with what you typically think of as a holiday and try
That's
something
right.
new. I think in terms of trekking the TMB as well, that's something that attracts a lot of people to it. You don't have to be a mountaineer, you don't have to be an expert climber. It's a challenging route, so maybe it's not going
Yes,
to
it
be the
is.
first hike you ever take on, but it is one that if you put the work in terms of preparing for it, it can be really, really rewarding. So that's great to hear.
It is. And on the TMB,
Hmm.
there was young kids doing it, and we met a woman who was 84 who was hiking it, and she was
Yeah.
hiking it solo, and she was doing great. So it is
Wow.
for everyone. It is, and it's never too late to do something like this.
That's a really great point. Yeah, yeah. We've worked with some guests in their, I think, probably late 70s. Yeah, no one in their
Hmm.
80s yet,
Yeah.
but that's awesome to hear. What was the booking process like for the TMBs? Actually, I think thinking back, I remember the day you said, Nadine, we're ready to book another trek. This time we want to do the Tour du Mont Blanc. um, I remember actually another thing, Kelly, and we can dive into this a little bit maybe after you answer the question,
Hmm.
but there was a lot more involved with the TMB, like getting your head around all of the pre-tour materials because it's not just like, 5 days of hiking and the notes for that, but it's a huge 11-day itinerary and kind of working through
It
all of
was.
that was quite different, wasn't it?
It was different. It was, yeah, the Lago Vega I felt which was much simpler, but this
Yeah.
is a bigger trek, and there was more to this.
Hmm.
We weren't just staying in huts, like we were staying in hotel, because we had the choices on this. We had the choice whether we stayed in like a hostel type, or a guest house or a
Yeah.
hotel. So there was lots of choices booking this trip.
Hmm.
And we threw in the rest day in Cormier, and we booked the extra day in Chamonix at the end. So there was a lot of things involved in this trip that weren't on our previous trip that we had booked with you.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was, we pretty much got the dream vacation here. Everything was exactly, how we wanted it, what we expected. And you did a great job doing that, pulling that all together for us, Nadine. I know I
Thanks.
sent a million emails with a million questions, but
That's okay. That's why
yeah,
we're here. It is one of those treks where you do have a lot of questions because there's a lot of moving parts. And for many people, it's the longest or most kind of extensive multi-day trek that they've done. And so with that comes a lot of questions, which we're always happy to answer because I feel like it helps
yeah.
you get all the more excited about it when you're feeling prepared and ready to go. So maybe just walking someone through the booking of the TMB. Now, I will say the Tour du Mont Blanc is not a trek that you want to wait till the very last minute to book because in all of these overnight locations, there are limited accommodations, especially if you're looking to go with the option that Kelly went with, which was the private rooms. Or a little bit earlier, she noted there are dormitory stays, which are more like a mountain hut refuge where you're in a shared dormitory with multiple travelers and shared facilities in that regard. But it is something that you do want to try and plan in advance. So, for instance, right now for the upcoming season, bookings for the TMB are becoming really challenging. We are still getting a confirmation here and there, but the vast majority for the hike that you did in particular, Kelly, the vast majority of dates are fully booked for the season. So when you're looking to book the TMB, it's a good idea to start thinking about it in advance. For the 2025 season, bookings should open in August and September, depending on the itinerary of 2024. So that's kind of when you want to start thinking about it, and then it's just a matter of really, reaching out to us, finding the itinerary that's right for you in terms of the length, the difficulty. We have a ton of self-guided options, but if you're a solo traveler and you're looking to join a guided group, we do offer that as well. If you have your own group of travelers and you want to have a guide, maybe a group of 6 to 10 people, and you want to have your own private group, that's something that we can work on as well. So there's a ton of options, and really the first step is always just reaching out, finding the trip, and then getting it booked. There we are. That's actually leading really well into our next point. So self-guided or guided. And Kelly, you guys did the self-guided trek. So I guess for those that haven't done a self-guided trek, what does it mean? It's you're hiking without a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no guide.
There's no guide. So I know me in particular, I'm a very slow walker.
Ah.
And I do like, excuse me, I do like to take my time and smell the roses. I take a
Mm-hmm.
million pictures. I stop and talk to people. I just like the slower pace, which is
Mm-hmm.
why we've always done self-guided. Um, I like to stop, and have a snack when I want to, take my shoes off and put my feet in a stream,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. Um, but having said that, we did meet quite a few groups on guided tours, and they all seem to be very happy and enjoy being with the pack.
Yeah.
So I think it's an individual preference, whether you
Yeah.
went with guided or self-guided. Self-guided just works better
For you
for
guys.
us. Better
Yeah,
for
yeah. And
us.
I hear that often. It's just about being able to enjoy it at your own pace and not feel like you've got to keep up with a group. But even on
Hmm.
a self-guided basis, you meet people along the trail, like you've said, and, can have
Yes.
a drink or dinner with people that you meet along the way too. So yeah, there's an option for everyone. And I know some people that are like self-guided, always, only, and others that are like, nope, guided, only join guided tours. So it's just a matter of preference for sure. So we chatted a little briefly about this, but we've noted on the TMB there are different options for accommodations. So sometimes people that are looking to keep costs down on the TMB, they'll opt in for the dormitory stays where you're sharing kind of bunk beds in a room in a dormitory. But then there's other travelers that really like to have the privacy of their own private room. So what accommodations did you select, Kelly?
We had a mixture.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you?
We did have a mixture, but I have to say, even the we really lucked out. Even the days that we were booked to stay in like the dormitory style, we ended up in a room by ourselves.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, we really lucked out. So, um, but most of the places were like they were like they were hostels or
Hmm.
refugees, however
Yeah,
you want to call them.
yeah.
And some rooms would be private rooms, and other rooms there would be 6 or 10 bunk beds in them.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So they're not massive.
yeah, yeah, and none of the accommodations were massive. We did spend several nights in hotels, small hotels as well. All of our accommodations were incredible. They were
That's
all
great.
really clean. The host and hostesses were exceptional. And even if we did spend a night, if we had to have spent a night in more of a dormitory style room, like they were all well spaced and very clean, and
Hmm.
it wouldn't have been bothersome at all to have stayed in those. But we were fortunate in our trek that we did get all private
Yeah.
accommodations for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
amazing. It is something we say to our guests, especially if they're booking a little bit later, than
Yeah,
when availability comes out, um, is just to try to be flexible because although we do get requests for all private rooms, sometimes we'll say, yes, the trips are possible for your dates, but are you okay with 2 nights in dormitory? But it sounds like even though I think that was the case for your booking, it worked out that you had private rooms anyway, which is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we did. We were very fortunate. But just to keep in mind that even though you have a private room, generally you have to share a bathroom.
Yes, yeah, actually, that's a really, really good point on the
Yeah,
TMB. Yeah, so even in the private hotel accommodations, a lot of times the washrooms are shared. There are some nights that are private washroom, but a lot of nights they are shared
they're shared
facilities.
bathrooms. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Actually, you know what? Before we move on to the next one, what was the food like at the accommodations? Because that's part of it too, right? You're not just sleeping there, you're also eating there. How did you find the food?
Well, I definitely didn't go hungry
Good. That's what I hear
at all.
often. Yeah.
At all. The food was incredible.
Awesome.
The food was incredible. I'm honestly happy to eat whatever. My husband is a little bit more particular. He likes really good meals, and going on trips, it's very important to him to have like to sit down to a really great dinner, and
Hmm.
we were not disappointed.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you do have the benefit of like, being in 3 different countries and having the cuisines of those 3 different countries, although similar in some
Yes,
cases in the mountains, you still do get the flavors of each, I'm sure.
each, yeah, and so the places that we stayed at that had the dinners included, it was um like in Switzerland, they did Rants. I'm gonna mess up the name. They
Give it
did
a
this
shot.
rancian or something. I can't remember, but it was like cheese and potatoes, and it was
Oh,
such an experience. It was amazing.
yeah.
Everything, the food was really really good. You did not go hungry at all.
Yeah, I've heard that that's a highlight for sure of those trips in
Yeah,
the TMB, the local delicacies that you get along the way. And for lovers of cheese, I hear it's a dream come
oh,
true.
and gelato,
And gelato, yeah, cheese and gelato.
cheese
You
and
cannot go
gelato.
wrong with those two staples when
No.
hiking. Awesome. Did you book did you book luggage transfers, Kelly?
We did, yes.
Hmm.
So we every single day except for the first night. I believe the first night, while we were there was
To refuge
construction.
La Balme, yeah.
Yeah, there was construction, and the transfers couldn't get there to pick up our luggage. So we just took 2 days worth of stuff in our day pack, and everything got was transferred on, and then every other night. So we
Yeah,
just
I
had
bet.
to bring our luggage down in the morning, and when we arrived, everything was there. So all we carried with us was our water, some snacks, first aid kit, and our rain gear. And it,
Nice.
it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, you're able to, yeah, I guess kind of, yeah, to be more able to do a longer duration trek without schlepping your gear on your back.
Yes, and I was very, very grateful that we had decided to do that. That's the
Hmm.
first time I've ever done a luggage transfer.
Oh, no way.
Yes, and I saw the others who were carrying their heavy packs with
Yeah.
all of their stuff in it, and I didn't envy them.
Yeah, there's a time and place for
Yeah.
that. I don't know. I think on the 11-day trek, I would probably opt in for the transfers, but
Yeah.
it is an optional service, and we do have some guests that book the trek without. I'd say 90%, maybe even 95% of people book the luggage transfers because that's just, yeah, one of the assets and allowing you to really enjoy it
Yeah.
on a daily without focusing on carrying all of your gear with you.
Well, we were very grateful that we did it.
Yes, I bet. What were your highlights? So, you did the complete route. I've been told there are no boring, mediocre days on the Tour du Mont Blanc. What were the highlights for you?
Yeah, it's really hard to narrow it down to one or two highlights.
Yeah.
It was every day was incredible. It was one of those trips where you would stop and you would look up and you would go just like, wow. Like look at
Hmm.
the background in that in
Yeah.
that in that picture. It's just every day was like that.
Hmm.
I it was just the next level of wow. And each country had something totally different to offer where like France and Italy were a little bit more rocky, a little bit more rugged, but then you got into Switzerland and everything was like it was so lush and green
Hmm.
and shady, which we were very grateful
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, it looks sunny in this shot here.
Yeah. So everything, the wow factor just over and over. Like I
Hmm.
said, the food was amazing. We met so many different people from all over the world who were there and had some great dinners, sharing some fun stories. And it was
Yeah.
just, there's not one thing that I can point out that was the best.
Hmm.
Um, the whole trip as a whole
It
was
made it
really,
the
really good.
experience.
It was really good.
Yeah. And it looks like you had some beautiful weather. When exactly did you track, Kelly?
We were there, I think we started trekking on August 13th or the
Right.
14th.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
were there that mid to last 2 weeks of August. I would
Hmm.
have to say though that every year they have um, a run
The
on the
marathon.
mountain,
Hmm.
which I
Hmm.
believe is the last week of August. So
Yes.
my recommendation would be to not book at that time. When
Hmm.
we were there, there were several people out doing like trial runs.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you would have people running by you. So I would highly suggest not going the
Yeah.
week that run is on.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that we definitely take into account in the booking process. It sometimes comes down to it where it's like, well, that's the last week to book, and say people say, book me anyway, it's fine. But yeah, if you're booking in advance and you have more of a chance
Yeah, I think
to
it's a
choose dates.
very busy
It is. And
busy
hotel
week there.
accommodations are also really challenging to get during that as well. And there's one at the beginning of the season too. Oh, just fantastic. So, and for
Yeah.
anyone that's wondering, the season for the Tour du Mont Blanc is usually mid-June to mid-September.
And we had perfect weather. We
It
had
looks
about
like it.
we had
I
about 10,
haven't seen
yeah.
one crappy weather photo here.
We had about 10 minutes of rain one day.
Oh, wow.
But 2 weeks before we arrived, they were hiking in snow on the top.
Wow, at the highest passes.
Yeah. The,
The snow melt was still happening at that point. Oh my
no,
gosh.
it had melted, but then it snowed
It
again.
snowed
It
again.
snowed again.
Oh,
They only got about 3 inches of it, so not
right.
too much,
Yeah.
but still enough to
That's why they say be prepared
be
for
prepared
all
for
seasons in the
everything.
mountains.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you lucked out in terms of weather. That's great. Was there camaraderie with other trekkers? It sounds like there was. You mentioned the people that you
Absolutely.
met.
Yes, absolutely. You meet people on the trail and you end up walking with them and chatting for an hour, and then
Hmm.
you stop at one of the like the hostels along the way that you pass, and you sit and you meet other people, and then at dinner, when you're having the communal dinners, there was just, if you want it to be by yourself, you definitely could, but there was
Hmm.
always people around. There was always, and when people are out hiking, everyone's in a good mood.
Yes.
It's great. It's just a great place to be and great people to meet, and everyone is, different but like-minded, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There for the same reasons, more or less, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, that does make it special. And I think it's hard to be in a bad mood when you're surrounded by beautiful scenery.
it
Um,
absolutely is. It absolutely
like
is.
that picture, the backdrop. You got some incredible photos, Kelly. Wow. And I
Thank
love
you.
how you guys managed to get a bunch of snaps where it looks like you guys are the only people there. Yeah, no one hiking behind you or anything. I love it.
Yeah, we were very lucky.
Did trekking the Tour de Mont Blanc change you? And if so, how?
Um, I wouldn't say it changed me, but there were things that I recognized about myself.
Hmm.
Um, there were some days that I had to dig pretty deep
To keep
uh,
going.
to get up those hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am an office worker, and I do sit and look at a computer for 9, 10 hours a day. So, I'm not the most fit. And there were definitely days that I had to dig deep. But then you get to the top, like this picture here. This is the
Yeah.
passing from Italy into Switzerland. This was
Hmm.
actually my
Hmm.
most exciting moment on the Tour de Mont Blanc.
Wow.
I
Wow.
was really excited about this day.
Yeah.
So you have to dig deep to get up, and then you get to the top, and you feel like your own personal rock star, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. Like, you just
Yeah.
feel so proud of yourself, and I did this and I accomplished this, and you know you look out at the view and you think, wow, like my two legs got me here,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
which
human
to me is a
power.
really great accomplishment. It's
Yeah, you must have such a sense of accomplishment
mhm.
following that. And also to be able to do it with your partner and, someone that you care a lot about. I think that must be quite a special experience too.
Oh, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was. My
that's
husband
awesome.
really enjoyed it as well. He did the Lagavegger with me as well, but again,
Hmm.
that was just a 5 day one, so
Yeah,
this one was so much bigger.
yeah.
But it was great. We both really enjoyed it.
I can see from the smiles on your faces. Yeah, this was a big moment. You look very proud.
Yes, I was so excited about this day.
Aw, go girl.
And actually, sometimes at the top of this mountain, so we were told, is they actually have a customs person there who will stamp your passport for
Ah,
you.
this is the spot. I've heard about this, but I didn't
Yes,
know exactly where that was.
yeah,
That's really, really cool. I mean,
it is.
more of a formality than anything, I guess.
Yeah,
But
they weren't there the day that we were there. I was really hoping for that stamp, but I still,
yeah.
so on the other side of that marker, there's an I for
Oh,
Italy.
for
Yeah.
Italy to show that you're
Hmm.
entering. That's really, really cool. Yeah, what a unique route. Wow. Is there anything you wish you knew before starting the TMB? Maybe it's a tip or like something that you would have found helpful or something that might have made your experience better or easier.
Um, I would, if I had to do the TMB again, I actually
Hmm.
would book 2 days in Cormier as a rest day, as rest
Okay.
days.
Yeah.
That would, if there was anything that I could change, it would be that.
Hmm.
Just because the first 3 days, they're challenging, especially, as the hike goes on, it almost gets a little easier. Your body, your hiker legs start working, your body,
Kicks in.
starts to kick in. But
Yeah.
the first 3 days were they were tough, like getting into that groove.
Mm.
Enjoyable but tough. And just once we got there, it was such a great town that I
Hmm.
could have easily passed 2 days in there just eating pizza and
Yeah.
gelato.
That's all you need.
Yes, I could have
Yeah.
easily done that. So if having to do it again, that's what I would do. That would be the one thing that I would change. I wish that I knew how much I would
Going
have
into it.
enjoyed it there.
Yeah, that's a really great insight for anyone looking to plan it. And like I said, Courmayeur is probably the most popular rest spot that we do
Hmm.
book for guests. But yeah, why not, if you have the time, take 2 extra days just to really be able to enjoy it at your leisure and
Yes,
eat good food and prepare for the second half of the journey.
yes.
That's awesome.
Other than that,
Hmm.
we were really prepared. Like, um, the details that 10 Adventures sent us were incredible. The app, we used, I can't remember the name of it, a Guido? No,
Guibo.
Guibo
Yeah, Guibo app. Yeah,
app,
yeah,
and it was incredible. It was incredible. Out
yeah.
of the entire time we were there was actually only one day that we got a little lost, and that had nothing to do with the app. That had totally 100% had to do with my husband, who wasn't paying attention to the app. And actually, we were following a lake, and we were just so caught up
Enamored.
in what we
Yeah.
were in the moment, and then we looked and we are like, oh geez, we're two
We're off
kilometers off where
track.
we're supposed to be. But the
Yeah,
the
that's
app was
great.
great. So there wasn't. We were really really well prepared.
Yeah. Then that makes all the difference. Yeah,
Hmm.
actually that's a good segue into the pre or the self-guided materials that you get when booking this trip. So about a month before your trip starts, we send you login details, which is the
Yep.
app Kelly mentioned, the Guibo app. So that has your route preloaded in it, all of your daily information, maps, that type of thing, so that you have those GPS capabilities offline on the trail.
Hmm.
And then we also send you your route notes, your maps, general information, and then local contact details as well. So I don't know if you ever had to call the local. Did you guys need assistance at any point via the local team?
No, no, we
Mm-hmm.
didn't. We
That's good.
didn't.
Yeah. And most people don't, but it's really good to have that as a safety net, knowing, okay, if something goes wrong, if we get lost or injured or we need help, even just checking into a hotel and something isn't right,
Hmm.
you always have access to the 24/7 support phone number via the local team who are actually on the ground there ready to help, which is great as well.
And the notes as well, so you get your map and it follows on your GPS, but the notes were
Hmm.
very, very detailed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Like
remember when you got them, you were like, Nadine, there's a lot here.
there was,
Yeah.
and every night when we got to where we were staying, we would go through the next day's plan and read
Itinerary.
everything, but they were very, very detailed.
Yeah,
Even on the trail, you could just kind of read through and, oh, okay, yeah, I remember, here we
this
are,
makes
and this is
sense.
right, and this is what we need to do. Even for like where bus stops were and things like that, it was very detailed. It
Yeah.
was it was really, really easy to follow and stress free.
That's a
It was
great
stress free.
point. Yeah, I think for
Hmm.
people maybe that haven't done a self-guided trip or yeah, don't really know what it's all about. It's not kind of like you're just thrown to the wolves and you figure it out. You
No,
definitely
not
have
at
the
all.
support and the material and the resources to be able to navigate successfully. And the idea is to make it as stress-free as possible. So that's great to hear that you found that was the case.
Yes, it was very, very easy to follow everything. It was good. It was great.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. So we've talked about your trek that you booked before the Tour du Mont Blanc, the Lagavagar Trail in Iceland, and the Tour du Mont Blanc. We've kind of covered the main, the differences. One was very long, 11 days without rest days, and the other one being 5 days. In contrasting, is there anything else that you can note that was really different about these two treks?
Well, the accommodations would be
Yeah.
be the first one. So on the Lagavulin Trail, you are staying in mountain huts. It
Yeah.
is it is all communal. There was one night on the Lagavulin Trail where you were sleeping. Everybody, it was just like a platform, like with mattresses on it, but you slept side by side, like you're in a sardine can kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so you have to be comfortable with that kind of setting, like the
Hmm.
washrooms on the Lagavulin Trail. They're outdoors. It's cold.
Yeah.
So we were there the last week of July, the first week of August, and July 31st we had a snowstorm.
Wow.
Yeah, it only lasted probably about 2 hours, but it was very, very windy.
Cold.
Um,
Yeah.
but other than that 2 hours, we did have exceptional weather on the Lagavulin. But it is
Hmm.
cold. Like
Hmm.
it's cold in the evenings. So when you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom,
Yeah.
it's a little chilly. The Lagavulin was out of this world beautiful.
Hmm.
It, you didn't even feel like you were on this planet.
Yeah, I was gonna
It
say it looks really otherworldly.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. It was incredible.
Hmm.
So that was probably the major difference where the TMB had more comforts
Yeah, and options I think too,
and
right?
options. Yes.
Yeah.
So the
Hmm.
Lago Vega was definitely an easier hike, and the Tour de
Hmm.
Mont Blanc was a little bit more strenuous. But at the end of the day, on the Tour de Mont Blanc, you had these gelato.
Yeah.
No, you had these great meals and you had a warm bed to crawl into and a warm shower.
Hmm. Creature comforts,
Creature
right?
comforts, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where the Lago Vega was a little bit more rugged, you had to carry your food for the whole
Yeah.
trek, and you had to carry all of your gear. Although I do think that you did offer a luggage
Transfer.
transport
Yeah.
with
Yeah, it's
Lago
an
Vega.
option. Yeah, but you know what? A lot fewer people. So a lot of people do book it, but because it's only 5 days, many people also choose to carry their packs on
Yeah,
that
so
trek.
yeah, so we carried. So those would be the bigger differences. The
Hmm.
Tour de Mont Blanc is definitely physically more challenging, but at the end of the day, you have that reward of that great warm meal and a
Yeah.
warm, comfortable bed. The
Yeah.
Lagavulin is beauty is beyond words. It's a little bit more rugged.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's a
so
great
the
comparison.
yeah, those would be the two.
I think the lesson here is for everyone in the audience, you need to put both of these treks on your bucket list. that would be that would be the answer.
They
That's
were
great.
both amazing, and I would
Yeah.
easily do either of them again.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah, that says it all, doesn't it?
yeah,
Awesome. So we'll have some questions now, Kelly. That brings us to
sure.
the end of the questions that I have for you. All right. So, oh, good question. Hi, Arnold. Kelly, Arnold is wondering, are there places to fill up on water while you're hiking? Like, would you fill up at a mountain spring, maybe at a refugio along the way? How did you guys manage that?
So some of the towns that we went through actually had, I don't know, they were like in the middle of the town. It looked like a big well
Oh,
that
like the
that was,
fountain type things.
yeah, and that had a
Yeah.
fountain you could fill up there.
Yeah.
Or you could just fill up at one of the refuges along the way. We never, not once, ran out of water or felt that we were running out of water. It was
That's great.
never. it was never an issue. Sometimes we would come across those places and we would swap our water because the water out of those fountains was nice and cold.
Yeah, yeah.
So we would do that, but there wasn't once on the trail where we ran out or had the fear that we were going to run out. There was always places to get water.
That makes a difference. Yeah, hydration is key, especially when
Yes.
the sun is shining. Did you do much training for this hike, Kelly? You and your husband?
Um, so we did do a lot of walking. The unfortunate thing is where we live, it's very, very flat.
Hmm.
So we don't even have hills where I am. So we did do a lot of long distance walking, but not a lot of training, hill training.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I did find going up the hills easier. There was days absolutely I struggled at the end of the day, or a really steep incline where I had to stop and catch my breath.
Hmm.
It was the descents actually that I struggled with the most, just with my knees.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty. So I would recommend maybe doing some knee strength exercises if
Yeah.
you were planning to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard that as well. The descents can be more challenging
the
than the ascents
descents
for
are
a lot of
very.
people.
I do find going up, you can stop and you can rest and take a breath, and
Yeah.
it gives you a good chance to stop and look
Hmm. And take it
look
all
at the
in.
beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
Going down though, you have to get down, and it
Yeah.
can be um, a little hard on the knees. So I would do some strength training on my knees.
Prior. Yeah, that's a great point. That actually leads into the next question quite nicely. What type of shoes did you wear? Were you wearing trail runners, hiking boots?
So I wore boots,
Boots.
hiking boots. I sprained my ankle
Ah, you need the support
years and years
then.
and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I wear boots for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, my husband likes to wear shoes, but he decided to wear boots as well for this, and he was very, very grateful that he did.
Yeah. For the stability in the ankles and
Yes.
yeah.
So I had, of course I Googled it a million times to see what people wore, and you
Mm-hmm.
get, 50-50. You can do
It's
it in trail
mixed.
runners. You should do it in boots. You should do it in trail runners,
Mm-hmm.
and you can absolutely do it in trail runners. There are there's rocks everywhere, and there's
Yeah.
so many opportunities to scrape your ankles, go over. I just prefer boots.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I do
Hmm.
hear it's very split between people that are team trail runners and team hiking boots. It's really a matter of personal preference. But I would say if you are going to wear trail runners, make sure you have strong ankles just because, you
Yes.
do with at least with the boots, you've got the added support
Yeah.
around the ankles with uneven terrain and that type of thing. But that answers that question well. Uh, we have a question from B who is asking, were there any extra daily costs on the TMB? I'm trying to think back to your itinerary. So you definitely had breakfast included, dinners sometimes on some nights,
Dinner was most nights, if
most
I think there
nights.
was only maybe two
Hmm.
two or three nights where we had to get our own dinner,
Hmm.
and then you would lunches.
Yeah, so
So
that would be
when you're at the hotels, or the guest houses, they usually offered a lunch menu, or like a
right.
lunch package where you could take a bag lunch with you, and we
Hmm.
did opt for that.
Hmm. Hmm. And what did that, do you remember what it normally costs? Like maybe like €10 or something like that?
I want to say 10 or 12
Yeah, that's what I was
euros,
thinking. Yeah.
and we never finished it. We actually got to the point where we would just get one, and we would
Hmm.
split it between us because it was a lot of food.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that as well. And then I guess another expense along the way could be the daily gelato.
The daily gelato, yes.
You don't have
Yes.
to budget too much for that, but keep that in mind. That is a daily expense, no doubt.
Yes. And then the second last day, we had to go from Mont Rock to Chamonix, and so we had to pay for the bus, but the bus driver let us on for free.
Oh,
So there was
awesome.
that cost, and then of
Yeah,
course the cost of your rest day if you choose to do one in
yeah,
Cormier.
yeah.
But no, there was no. other than those couple of dinners, there
Mhm.
was no extra costs.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the nice things about the trip. It's kind of like you know what you've paid for going into it, and then there's
Hmm.
some little bits here and there that you might pay for in addition, but mostly everything else is taken care of in
Is
terms of
taken
your
care of. Yeah.
accommodations and your luggage and your meals and that type of thing as well.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Let's see if we have any more questions here. That looks like we are at the end of our question list. Um, that was great. What a really cool experience to hear firsthand from you, Kelly. Yeah, like I said, it's one thing to hear from someone on the local team about these trips, but to actually hear from someone who's hiked it recently, who went through the booking process, who's done other hikes, it was really insightful and really cool. So I want to thank you for your time and for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I guess a good parting question would be, what's your next iconic hike, Kelly? What trail do you have your sights set on next?
Well, I'm actually leaving for Africa in 14 days.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
What part of
Yes.
Africa?
Kilimanjaro. We're gonna climb
Oh,
Kilimanjaro.
fantastic. That is
Hmm.
going to be amazing. Okay, so that's your next bucket list taken care of right there.
Yes, but after that, actually, it's Patagonia. So
Oh,
I will be in touch with you
wonderful. Yes,
to do
that's one of my
Patagonia.
recent trips.
Is
That's
it?
awesome. Yeah, I was there in Chile and Patagonia hiking last year. So
Oh, well,
I'm your gal for that.
we'll
We'll
have to
connect.
connect and I'll have a million
Yeah.
questions again for you.
Oh,
That's the next one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. We can't wait to help you plan that one, Kelly.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm already
And
watching videos.
all of the best with Kellie. And
Thank you.
again, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to see you, and happy adventuring.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. It was great to have you. We hope you all learned lots about the TMB. I'm going to type my email and the email of our team here into the chat box. So if any of you have any follow-up questions or you want to start chatting about booking a TMB, you can feel free to reach out to us. And with that, we'll say goodbye, Kelly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.